There's a reason I titled this video Neo2 isn't for everyone. And it's not because the drone is bad, it's not because it's underpowered, and it's definitely not because DJI messed up. It's because this drone forces you to confront how you actually like to fly. When I first started using the Neo2 regularly, I didn't immediately realize what was different about it. Nothing jumped out as obviously wrong or obviously revolutionary. It just felt comfortable. And that comfort slowly became the most defining part of the experience. Every flight felt calm, predictable, almost frictionless, but comfort can be misleading because comfort is amazing when it aligns with your habits and incredibly frustrating when it doesn't. The Neo2 is designed around one very specific idea: reducing friction between you and the act of flying. And DJI achieves that by making a lot of decisions for you. The flight controller smooths things out. The stabilization prioritizes calmness over precision. The drone resists sudden or aggressive movement. It wants everything to feel composed, even when conditions aren't perfect. That's why for many people, the Neo2 feels instantly trustworthy. You don't feel like you're babysitting it. You don't feel like you're constantly correcting it. You don't feel that low-level anxiety that comes with small drones fighting wind or drifting unexpectedly. But here's the other side of that same design choice. When a drone prioritizes stability and confidence this heavily, it naturally gives up some responsiveness. And if you're the kind of pilot who enjoys shaping every movement, fine control, precise arcs, repeatable cinematic passes, like that loss is noticeable. This isn't about skill level. Experienced pilots feel it too. Like the Neo2 doesn't punish mistakes, but it also doesn't reward mastery in the same way larger or more configurable drones do. It smooths over imperfections, sometimes even smoothing over intent. That's a subtle thing, but once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. The gimbal behavior is a good example. On paper, it does exactly what it's supposed to do: keep footage stable, keep the horizon under control, reduce shake. In real use, it's very effective, but not very expressive. If you want ultra deliberate, cinematic motion with very precise timing, you'll start to feel the limits. Movements blend together, inputs feel interpreted rather than executed. The drone chooses safe over exact. And again, this isn't a flaw, it's a philosophy. DJI clearly didn't build the Neo2 for people who want to fight the drone into submission. They built it for people who want the drone to quietly help them succeed. That's why beginners often love it. That's why nervous flyers relax with it. That's why casual users feel confident almost immediately, but that same approach is also why some people bounce off it hard. Another place this shows up is battery behavior. Not just how long it lasts, but how it ends a flight. With the Neo2, you're rarely forced to land because something feels dangerous. You're not landing because wind picked up suddenly or because the drone became unstable. You're landing because time simply runs out. That creates a very different emotional response. Some pilots hate that feeling. They want endurance. They want the freedom to stay airborne, to explore further, to push the session longer. For those people, the Neo2's realistic 9 to 13 minutes feels restrictive, but others don't experience it that way at all. For them, the flight ends when the idea ends, when the shot feels complete, when the moment is captured. The battery doesn't feel like a limitation, it feels like a natural stopping point. This difference in perception is huge. It's the difference between seeing the Neo2 as too short-lived or perfectly paced. And that difference depends entirely on why you fly. If flying is about exploration, experimentation, and long sessions, the Neo2 will feel small. If flying is about capturing moments without stress, the Neo2 feels almost perfectly tuned. What makes this even more interesting is that the Neo2 doesn't advertise this distinction clearly. On the surface, it looks like just another small DJI drone, but it doesn't behave like one. It doesn't tempt you to fly far. It doesn't invite you to push limits. It invites you to stay close, stay relaxed, and fly often. That invitation is powerful, but only if you accept it. And this is where a lot of mixed opinions online come from. People aren't disagreeing about the drone's performance. They're reacting to whether its philosophy matches their expectations. Some people want a drone to challenge them. Some people want a drone to disappear. The Neo2 very clearly chooses the second option. Once you understand that philosophy, it also becomes easier to explain why the Neo2 creates such split reactions among more experienced flyers. This drone doesn't scale emotionally the way other DJI drones do. What I mean by that is simple. With many drones, the better you get, the more the drone gives back. You learn how to fly smoother lines, you learn how to manage momentum, you learn how to time movements so the footage feels intentional instead of accidental. Skill compounds. With the Neo2, skill still matters, but it plateaus earlier. Not because you can't fly it well, but because the drone steps in to keep things safe, smooth, and predictable. It doesn't fully hand control back to you even when you're ready for it. And for some pilots, that starts to feel limiting over time. You stop asking, how can I improve this shot? And start asking, why won't the drone let me do that? That's usually the moment people realize this drone isn't aimed at them. This is also where expectations can quietly work against it. If you come into the Neo2 expecting it to replace something bigger, more configurable, or more expressive, you're going to feel boxed in. It's not built to replace those drones, it's built to remove friction from flying, even if that means sanding off some creative edges, and yet there's something surprisingly honest about that. Because the Neo2 never pretends to be more than it is. It doesn't lure you with extreme specs. Like it doesn't promise cinematic perfection. It doesn't claim to be a professional tool. What it offers is consistency. Consistency in how it takes off. Consistency in how it hovers. Consistency in how it tracks. Consistency in how it lands. That consistency builds confidence faster than almost anything else. For newer pilots, that confidence is everything. It's the difference between flying once a month and flying every weekend. It's the difference between anxiety and curiosity. And it's the reason some people bond with this drone in a way they never expected. But confidence without flexibility eventually reveals its ceiling. The more you fly, the more you notice that the Neo2 doesn't want to be pushed. It wants to be trusted. It wants you to work with it, not test it. And when you accept that, the experience becomes smoother, but also narrower. This is why the battery conversation keeps coming up, even though it's not the real issue. The battery isn't short because the drone is inefficient. It's short because the drone is constantly working to keep things calm. The motors are active, the stabilization is active, the flight controller is active, the safety systems are active. You're enjoying simplicity because the drone is doing complexity for you in the background. And that's why the flight ends quietly, without drama. Not with panic, not with frustration, just with a reminder that this category has boundaries. If you judge the Neo2 by how long it stays in the air, you miss the point. If you judge it by how easy it makes flying feel, you start to understand it. So who is this drone actually for? It's for people who value confidence over control, for people who want to launch quickly, capture something meaningful, and land without stress, for people who don't want to think about wind every second, for people who want flying to feel inviting, not demanding. And who isn't it for? It's not for pilots who want maximum expression. It's not for people chasing perfectly repeatable cinematic passes. It's not for those who equate progress with pushing limits further and further. That doesn't make the Neo2 lesser. It makes it specific. And in a market where so many drones try to be everything at once, there's something refreshing about one that knows its role. After living with it, that's what stays with me the most. Not the battery numbers, not the specs, but the feeling. The Neo 2 feels like a drone that wants you to enjoy flying again, even if that means stopping a little sooner than you'd like. That's not a flaw. That's a design choice. Whether that choice works for you depends entirely on what you expect flying to feel like. And that's why Neo 2 isn't for everyone. If you already fly one, I'd genuinely love to hear this, right? Do you wish the flights were longer, or do you find yourself satisfied when the battery runs out? Drop your experience in the comments. Those perspectives help way more than specs ever could. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.